seconds. There we go. We're live. VC Wisdom Pod, guys, with Gab Zanko. Before I introduce him, just like to tell you that podpire.com is there to help you start and scale your podcast, get insights, get great guests like Gab that might become a connection for life for me, and even get clients. It's pretty significant. A podcast, it's evergreen, it's
Before I introduce him,
flywheel, and I really hope that I can help you to actually get your podcast off the ground or scale it. Without further ado, we have Gab Zanko with us, Gabriel Zanko. He is a general partner, a JP at Urano Kapital. He is also CEO at Lifetree. He did a bunch of interesting things, really colorful guy. So I'm really excited to have him on today. Gab, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your companies?
Hey, Charles, thank you so much for the invite and having me on your podcast. Really excited, and also live, as you mentioned. So for me, it's a good experiment to be live as well at the same time. But so in a nutshell, I'm Gabriel Zanko, originally from Caracas, Venezuela, now living in Colombia. And I would say the last 9 years, I've been involved in technology innovation to some extent, whether raising capital for innovation, advising, researching, also investing in a few ones that I've been also supporting to raise capital. But, my main passion, I would say right now is technology, obviously, but also music. I'm always been involved in music, and now I'm more into electronic music. So again, always the technology on the angle. And so happy to be here, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So I think last time we discussed our shared passion for EDM. So let me know what next festival you'll be hitting. Me and my wife are supposed to do the Tomorrowland pretty soon. I want to do the Burning Man. These plans have been put on hold since COVID. It's like almost if I'm not thinking about it anymore. But I'm also quite bullish in Mexico. Yeah, Tulum. The scene is developing quite heavily there, and some of my favorite artists, they play there. So I'll just let you know next time that a great DJ like Tin Liquor, for example, it's just like crazy good, hits the scene. For the background, it's super fascinating that you started like in Caracas, Venezuela, that is known to have lots of problems. Maybe we can start with that. You worked at PwC there. How was your experience and how did you deal with that country? Lots of political dissidents and corruption in that country. So how did you deal with that?
Super. Happy to share that initial background. And definitely Venezuela is a very interesting nation because, as you mentioned, it went from Venezuela was quite a pioneering country in the 60s with the oil boom, obviously in the early 20s, 30s, just before Second World War, right? So Venezuela was being a leader in the region and globally. And then obviously what happened with the revolution and everything, what happened late 80s and 90s and Chavez, obviously the nation changed a lot, and we obviously witnessed a lot of destruction on the political side and a lot of immigration from Venezuelans to all over, So now you see we are all over, even in Mexico, US, the whole region. There is a lot of talent out in the planet now from Venezuela that, let's say, doctors, lawyers, a lot of professionals that are now doing any other stuff, right? Working hard, and so that's why it's been, the last decade, it's been very tough, no? So for me, growing at that time, when I was in PricewaterhouseCoopers, I remember it was the Chavez time, and the oil barrel price was at the biggest and the highest peak, in over $100 per barrel. So there was a lot of abundance in the economy, but it also was a lot. So for me, was working in PricewaterhouseCoopers, it felt the nation was doing great, even with all the political changes, the economy was quite abundant, and then it crashed. So for me, it was quite confusing. I started, doing my corporate side of things, and I thought I was going to be in the corporate world forever, and then obviously a lot of things changed, no? But I did learn a lot because I was working, the client was the telecom in Venezuela, CanTV, the biggest telecom in Venezuela. It was trading in New York Stock Exchange. So I experienced that experience of a corporate telecom to then being bought by Chavez, by the government, in seconds, in a few weeks. So for me, it was quite intense, those changes, how you see a government buying all the companies, so it was quite interesting. I was just a student back then, but anyway, it was quite wild.
Yeah, good experience to start PwC. I mean, big four, big five, definitely a huge firm. Then you transferred at Nokia for like 5 years. How was that?
Exactly. Yeah. So I was continuing, as I mentioned, in the telecom space within the Price Waterhouse experience, and then obviously I before going to Nokia, I kind of like when I was in Price Waterhouse Cooper after 3 years and a half, I think I took a break and went to Croatia. My family is also from Croatia, and I wanted to start traveling and learn the language. And I got a scholarship for studying the language back then, and it was like, at that time, my opportunity to go from Venezuela and try something different, not something different from Venezuela, but something different from the corporate world. So it was like reconnect with my music, traveling, and then Croatian. And I grew a lot more in the personal side, I would say. And then back then I had my kid in Croatia. So it was a lot of also changes on the personal side. And when I returned to Latin America, that's when I got involved in Nokia, Nokia Siemens. Again, the corporate side of things. I didn't figure out then how to do the tech side or all the things I'm doing now. Yeah, it was completely different.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last time. And then you got quickly into investing in crypto companies, and that was in around 2015. I mean, it's a huge leap forward in time for you that we just did there in your career. But tell us about these investments. I see Dream Team, I see Crypterium. Did that pan out well, these investments?
I mean, yeah, what I began with the crypto space or trying to do something different, obviously it began with Bitcoin, reading the paper, got fascinated by, the whole characteristics, anonymous, decentralized. It looks so libertarian that I thought, wow, this is the way out, to get out of the 9 to 5, corporate world that I was having. So definitely my initiation was in that space. At the beginning was just to mine Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin and invest in Bitcoin purely. And then obviously when I appeared Ethereum in 2014, I believe, 2015. And then trying to read all these white papers, ICOs, new projects on Ethereum, it kind of like was opening my mind to something completely new. And back then I wasn't even aware how to get started in all that craziness. So I think my corporate experience helped me to be part of these companies, as a shareholder, advisor, and then obviously connecting people to get involved in the project, And it was all experimental, to be super honest, at the beginning, I didn't know how to properly do it or how to invest, or if I invest, how to recover my investment at that moment. And even if I had shares or tokens from the company, how to leverage or maximize it. But in essence, was like a broker. I was calling people, connecting with people to bring to these companies and raise capital, and it went successful with Naga. Naga was the first one I remember from Germany, and it was a crazy experience. I mean, it was an amazing one. I mean, I remember I talked to the CEO one day, a first day, and I brought an investor on Saturday. So in 2 days, I was able to broker my first deal, and I felt, wow, I got something here to explode, and I still was working in Nokia when I was doing this first deal. So it was for me very wild to see all these new transactions and operations and deals, and the ability to invest as well, which was something new for me. I was not doing that before because I couldn't. And then it was like, wow. Obviously, there was a bubble. There was the ICO boom back then. Everything changed from there, but it gave me a glimpse of potential. Definitely.
For brokering deals, did you take a cut or did you just refer them?
No, obviously I was working like a typical broker, like a cut, like a success fee, but it wasn't purely introducing. It was more also trying to help with the strategy, business development, obviously bringing capital. That was kind of like the main one, obviously. And then after a few successful deals, and then Crypterium was a huge one, then that allowed me to also allocate on my own, no, a little bit at the beginning, no. So it was kind of like exciting for me, despite the bubbles, right? Despite the crypto bubbles, it gave me at least, the decision to do it. Yeah, it was.
And to broker deals, you take 5% typically, or?
I mean, it depends. I go case by case, to be super honest, and it can be very different from every deal, And
Well,
I
the
never.
higher the check is, the lower the cut, I guess, because if you take like 10% of a million, that's 100K just right there in your pockets. That's a
No,
lot.
yeah. It usually goes, usually industry standards, right? That could go from even 1 to 3 and then to 3 to 5, depending the ranges. It depends the type of deal you're brokering. If you're raising 100K, it's not the same of 20 million, or at least how much are you taking from that position, and the timing. No, if you just 1 month, 2 weeks, or 6 months, obviously you try to, but obviously, you try to do industry standards, I guess. Yeah, it depends.
Right. And your investments, did you invest in crypto or was it cash?
No, crypto. Yeah, definitely. Crypto.
So
Yeah.
were you early on Bitcoin? Did you like catch it when it was hot?
What I did with Bitcoin actually was more like, as I mentioned, very experimental. I mean, I was mining Bitcoin and then buying a little bit, but I wouldn't say my breakthrough was through Bitcoin. It was more from the boom of Ethereum and the boom of all these new projects at the moment, and raising capital at the beginning. But definitely Bitcoin, I'm very pro Bitcoin in the end, I guess, with all this new crypto, But I don't know. What do you think? No, maybe on Bitcoin or Ethereum, but
Checking the price now of Bitcoin, it's been according to my predictions, which was funny when Bellagio made the bet of 30K, and I was like, no, or I think it was 1 million, and my prediction a couple months ago is still that it wouldn't go over 30K. So been quite accurate about that. By the way, I don't have much basis for my prediction. It's pure like gut and intellect. I don't do like any analysis. My stance on crypto and it's the lowest it's been in like ever. I'm really bearish on it, and I was bullish at various points, but it's just like human psychology. I felt, and I still feel, that there's so many bad actors, such a high percentage of bad actors if you compared with other industry like climate tech and green tech, right? There's a lot of folks in climate and green tech that are not necessarily there for money. I mean, this year we've seen a lot of bad actor in climate tech and green tech because there's a lot of money. But like in crypto, it is money, we're not talking about the environment here. We're talking about money. So, and like, that's where you'll get a lot of sharks and so forth. I'm still a huge believer in the technology in itself, but any technology is led by a community, right? And if there's like 2 crooks around 10 individuals around the table, then I'm out of that table, I'm not saying it will stay that way, but I'm not super bullish. And just before I ask your opinion on that, I'm just checking at the price of Bitcoin in the years that you were there. So that was 3.7, man. That is just so amazing. Because like today it's 30K. So you would have 10x your investment. And even then, the mentality, guys, just for invest or non-investors out there, if you compare like the best funds, right, like on a yearly basis, even like having a 13% on a yearly basis increase is like humongous. It's so good. Let's say you invest 1 million and next year you gain 13%. Well, you just made 130K just like that, So the mentality back then was, what can I invest in that is more than 10, 15 or 20%? And I guess Bitcoin was definitely that. Anyway,
no, but that you're in a good point, and I think obviously today it's like when you see a game and the game ended, and you see, if you should have done this move, then maybe you would done another goal. I think it's easier when the game ended and you look backwards. Obviously, everyone is like a genius now in investment, but when you are in the middle of the battle, bleeding and with the game, I guess you have other priorities also, no? And the typical human concept is that not everything goes up forever.
Yeah.
But it turns out that for Bitcoin, in a way, was like that. No? Even today. No? But
that's why making these predictions, you need to be first like incredibly mentally resilient, and you need to have very high IQ. So I study a bunch of moguls, a bunch of billionaires throughout history, you know, and nowadays I'm studying Canadian billionaires in the 1900s. And today I posted that video. Actually, it's quite good. It's about Edward Taylor. He was the largest brewery in the world at some point because there was the prohibition, you know, back in these days. So he made the bet that prohibition would end, right? So you need to be crazy to be making such a bet. We've also seen recently in history, in Canada, marijuana legalization. Very few people thought that would happen, you know? So you need to make this very contrarian bet.
Oh, yeah.
And when you make that bet, you need to stay incredibly patient and sound-minded. You cannot have your devil tell you like, oh, time to pull out, you know? So you need to be super brave, go all fucking in, and just stay resilient until it pays off. That's what it takes.
And to be super honest, what I have seen with investors, even great investors, and what I have seen in the game is that, I mean, you get lucky, or you have the ability to synchronize that luck to you. And people call you, oh my God, you're a genius. But it's not that you're a genius, it's that you were willing to take a risk and you got lucky, because you could also fail. But anyway, the things went for you, and okay, you made it.
Yeah, it's like 67% chances of success, but I mean, there's still the 23%, which is still super high chances of, well, actually it's 33% of failing. So you need to have guts, you know, and the chance, I guess, is like, what elements did you not predicted that played again for your bet and not against your bet? And yeah, that's why you need to kind of have a super brain. And it with the Bitcoin and all of that, I had, you know, friends. I was staying in Hong Kong back in these days, and I had a friend. His name is Virgilio. Is he from Venezuela? Maybe he is, but near or someplace near. And he made that bet, I remember, and I was like, first I didn't have money. I was broke. I was a student back then. But he did make that bet, and yeah, that panned out pretty well. But what do you think about the comments I just made about the industry? Like, am I right? Is there like a shade of opinions or variance to that, or shades of truth in this?
I mean, I guess with every new technology, Charles, there comes a time when it's the dark ages of the technology, with everyone is like, you know, demonizing the technology and the actors. And then it goes to a transition where everyone tries to build upon it, and then it goes to the light. And I think with crypto, well, it's already been a decade, but the first 6-7 years has been quite tough, you know, and because I would say it's the first technology that is challenging the system directly, you know, and when you mess directly with the main financial system that's been ruling for centuries, obviously you have to expect some troubles. Obviously, you will have to expect some bad actors. And it's even harder because you see very smart people building technology that have to challenge not only the system, but also the bad actors. So it's quite, I never seen that before in any other technology, or correct me if I'm wrong, you know, but, and so, wow, I mean, chapeau to all the guys who are trying to build something new on that. However, I do think we need to find new roads to build it properly, because you don't want to be fighting everyone all the time, right?
Right.
So
no, that is an interesting point. And I mean, Coinbase, I think it's going to be a huge company. But my point is, we've seen like, crypto and VR specifically going to very bearish market. I mean, one could argue that with Apple Vision Pro, we're seeing an upheaval in AR. I do think they're good at VR. I do think they're going to make something quite amazing there. Apple, they succeed at everything they touch, you know, like even if they would make I don't know, an Apple cigarettes, everyone would smoke it, you know. I don't know why I thought about that yesterday, but yeah, we've seen that. We've seen a major bullish market this year in AI, but AI is such a different technology. We're talking about reproducing our brains, you know, and I don't think you can go wrong in that. To your point, governments are formidable opponents. I think governments are losing power on a daily basis. There's a lot of erosion. It's now it's more like micro communities. I don't think governments are gonna go extinct that quick. I think they're still gonna stay in the ecosystem of things, but they're gonna reshape. They're gonna have less power. Taxation is gonna diminish, hopefully, and I think there's going to be one AI per government and so forth. It is a formidable opponent, but my question to you is, do you think, because me, you know, I can somewhat detach myself. I do have small crypto investments, but I can detach myself from that and think from a technological standpoint. And yes, there's major problems in the banking system. I don't like the banking systems. It's shrouded in secrecy and bullshit, you know. And we've seen a couple of bank fails. I thought that would have greater effects on crypto. But my question for you is, do you think crypto people are biased because they have huge investment and they obviously want that to succeed? Or do you think they can still detach themselves and be like, this technology is good for the greater good?
Wow, that's a good question, Charles. And it's a hard one. I think, how can I say? Honestly, it's still, despite the capital and the money that is in crypto, and you can make a lot of money, it's still a very small space. So I think I wouldn't put all my chips in one industry, or because it's transforming so much that with AI, quantum computing, energy consumption, you have so many, and the government as well, that we were talking about that. Even if you have a lot of allocation, you need to reconsider a lot of things, because from the ICO boom to now, I have seen some patterns repeating. The ICO bubble, then the DeFi summer, now then NFTs, and now it's more DAOs, and then protocols. But still, we have some issues that there's no main use case for these technologies for people, like for Colombia, for a small village, for getting access to water. Can you pay with crypto? No, you can't. Or can you get, so it's still a lot of business use case that the industry hasn't been able to implement, despite the industry growing a lot. Don't get me wrong, I love the technology, but that's what I think is, we need first to transition the energy from fossil to green, power the protocol with green, and then empower the communities, not DAOs, but the communities, and then from there go to another direction with some type of crypto for sure, or token. I mean, it's a good economy, I think, but now we have the CBDCs from governments that are also growing. So when everyone has a CBDC, why would you need a token just to speculate, just to make a good trade? I mean, it depends, So it's more complex that we think, I guess.
It's a tough question, to be honest, because I'm freaking biased, Like, I started this pod promoting podcasts. Why do you think I promote podcasts? Because that's what I'm doing right now. So we're all biased and we're all susceptible to this capitalist system. I promote cold email all the time. Why do you think? Because it works for me. It might work for you, but that is bias right there. So super hard question. The second point is you need to go where adoption is already, especially if we're going to talk about developing countries. And even before we talk about that, we could talk about the whole world, like what is easy for me. PayPal, it's super easy, but PayPal takes a cut. They take forever. Not everyone's on PayPal. So what about starting a startup that's only client would be WhatsApp, which is on everyone's phone, especially in LATAM, for example, and you would build their payment infrastructure. I mean, WhatsApp is part of Meta, but I think that is like somewhat what we need. Someone that's already on everyone's phone and provides like a no-brainer technology for instant payment with very low fees.
Right.
But that has been attempted before, hasn't it?
Yes, I think.
And they probably fell.
You mentioned AI, no? And I think Peter Thiel mentions that AI is like the communist and crypto is libertarian, no? In those two sides, no? But I like
explain that. I never heard that before.
Yeah, I like the comparison because in a way, China loves AI, no? He mentioned, he states that, no? And China communist and crypto decentralized in the planet, no? So there is something on crypto that really resonate with me, at least me coming from Venezuela, a country that you see politics and centralized parties very corrupt or most of them, then you see with crypto like a mini window of hope that can help you, that can take you to another level. And it happened to me in a way, So there is something of freedom that crypto might give you. Maybe it's a short, it's not a short-term type of feeling, but it opened a window. Like it's the first time that you have a system that it doesn't depend purely on government or a company, and it can revolutionize the whole society. Yes, but it hasn't achieved the main goal of completely freedom from the main system. You're still pegged to the US dollar or to the currency you are in the country, and you have to go through a bank to then get your money. So in the end, it's not purely free, but I think there's opening a new system potentially there. Who knows? Or maybe it's just a reflection of the current system with just more technology, which in the end is not too much excited, to be honest, because if we are going to a CBDC type of society, then it's not too excited what we have done. Maybe we'll have just Bitcoin like a gold type of asset in the network, and that's it. But I think we need more. I don't know that. Yeah.
Still very bullish on crypto. Crypto is more like cowboy. Is more libertarian, and I'm very much left-wing myself, and in pretty much everything. I don't like someone having control over me. I also like money, I just think, when it doesn't need to come at the expense of the other. If I'm making money, I want you to win too, that's like the basic laws of physics, and some people don't understand that in the crypto community. Now, my bias, lately I've had a guy on my pod in crypto, and I discovered that I don't want to use the word scam, but he was not like well aligned. He was like doing an ICO. I'm like, dude, do ICOs still exist in this day and age? So, and I had bad experience with crypto myself, losing thousands. What I need to do to diminish that bias, and that's why I love this podcast, to have more crypto folks on the pod, so I can regain faith, because early this year, for example, my favorite entrepreneur in the world, Elon, I lost faith in him because I think he was like acting like an idiot. And I always supported the guy. So I guess, my heart will be looped back into the libertarian aspect and the world changing aspect of it. I'll have more folks on my pod for that, but tell me a bit more about like what you run nowadays. I want to learn more about like two business in specific. So your latest LifeTree and Urano Kapital. What do you do at these companies? What size of checks do you write, to whom, and what is your investment thesis there?
Oh, yeah, no, it's a good question. Now that you mentioned, just to finalize what we were talking to, you mentioned Elon. Obviously, when you get to places like Elon with so much power, you become also a speculator. You can move industries quickly, and including crypto, he was able to move the whole market. Imagine someone moving the whole New York Stock Exchange just by one comment or one tweet. So then we see how dynamic this technology is. But I wouldn't consider myself purely as a crypto because I want to get involved more, as I mentioned, in energy. So what I'm doing now, LifeTree is the company, the investment banking that before was called MobileyourLife, but in essence has been consultancy, raising capital, secondary market trading, everything related to mostly Web3, but I initiated with fintech. So now, obviously, I continue doing Web3, but it's also fintech in the Latin region and global blockchain, but also focusing to empower scientists from deep tech, space, energy, green hydrogen, biohydrogen, more complex technology that also needs funding. And I learned with the blockchain space, or back then in the years with the ICO, that a lot of scientists were trying to raise money from these instruments. And I got connected with very interesting people from all over doing energy solutions, solar, concentration of power, and all this stuff that maybe we can use these dynamic instruments, DeFi, to fund these guys, in a way. So in essence, that's when Urano Kapital was born 1 year ago, the concept, the design, and now we're ready to go in the sense of investing in that intersection of deep tech, meaning a space, like a scientist, we have sending rockets to the moon, like they want to develop logistics to the moon, to extract minerals, to go to Earth to help their energy, or green hydrogen in Africa, or things that go beyond the blockchain, but we can use the on-chain assets to empower these type of how you say, the technologies. But I mean, it's been pandemic all these years. We redesign and, you know, trying to find this sweet spot, this sweet angle, and the idea is to have it full life by January 2024, this new concept. But in the meantime, yeah, I continue to raise capital for this type of innovations, getting more understanding of the technologies. If I can invest, I will do it. But to be honest, I prefer to do it with the institutional vehicle to lead the rounds, because that's also a thing I learned, that when you get involved in rounds and you're not leading the round, maybe it's not the best decision. So you want to lead, take it, and get to work, no, in a way. But in the meantime, from here to January, I'm also exploring syndicate, like a club of 10 people, just write check, even if it's a small check, but to get involved, you know, in a pre-seed round, let's say 100, 200K, things like, but with a team, no, with a group of, like a club, no? And then from there, we get some more skin in the game to the bigger plays, because this place that I'm telling you, green hydrogen space, requires way more capital intensive and leadership. But well, it's all a game, Charles. We're trying to learn and also experiment. But I do see an angle of empowering these protocols with green energy, and from there trying to, let's say, like this guy Bukele, no, in El Salvador, he's trying to build on a state level, like Bitcoin legal, geothermal energy. He's trying to do some plays that really resonate with my own thesis, no, which is interconnecting many technologies to one, no, and vice versa. No? I think that's kind of like the angle I want to have, you know.
I'm also aligned with that vision, very much tech-driven individual. And if I'd be a prime minister, that's the direction I'd take. I'd go hyper-tech, like none other presidents or prime minister. What are your thoughts on LK99, nuclear, and Tesla power packs?
Wow, man,
it's a Phil question, by the way.
You hit the point, but you read my mind. But no, I one of the technologies I want to explore obviously is nuclear, and the innovation with let's say thorium reactors is so impressive. What we can do with that, you know, we can transition from fossils so quickly, you know. But obviously you have the lobby of oil and gas regulations. It could be dangerous, the waste. But I think there is an option there, like the Bitcoin was for the financial. I think thorium could be like a way for the energy. And if you combine both, let's say green energy, nuclear with Bitcoin, and then building a DAO on top, or building a DeFi on top, but then going to a government, because I do think that we need to include the government in the equation, because obviously you are going to be fighting all the time. You are not going to make too much stuff. But if you go to a government like Bukele or other one in Europe and say, hey, we got this technology, we got green hydrogen, thorium, let's power up your village, and then from there we build a token on top from the government. I think there is an interesting angle there that we need to kind of like flirt with the government in a way, like a lobby from the government to empower technology, no, being other equation, no, other, who knows, no, we'll see, no, but I think that's the way, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like, why would government go with token if they already had their currency? I mean, I know the advantages of having a token, but in their minds, it would be like hyper competing. So what do you think about that?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, and I agree with you. But I think if you let's call it like that, if you are playing in the energy game and you in a way are leading or dominating that game in some regions, then they will pay attention to you to some extent, no? Because if you're not depending on the oil and gas, petro-backed dollar, but you're doing something different, that might be interesting, or you might get into more trouble, I guess, no? Because
or maybe just peg their current currency to a token and still get the advantage, the blockchain advantages. But yeah, we haven't seen like clear examples of that yet. I'm yet to see this. Last topic that I want to abord with you, AGI, singularity, like I think is going to happen in 10 to 15 years. In earliest could be like 7 years. I don't think the world is going to end. I just think it's going to drastically accelerate. I think days are going to become years, you know. That would be my description of singularity. And arguably, you know, someone told me today, like, how much time would the pod be online if we record? And it's not a live, the live, it's like instant, but if we record, it's 14 to 21 days. That's my pipeline. And I told that person that to me as an entrepreneur, 14 to 21 days is like 14 to 21 months, you know. Time passes very quick, but I get so much done. Also, I think that singularity will just accelerate anything, and days will lose meaning, weeks will lose meaning, you know. Time will be this stream, this constant stream of light, if I could describe it. By the way, it's the first time I describe singularity that way, which means that my brain is making progress in some sense. But when do you think it's going to happen? And what do you think is going to happen? How is this new reality going to look?
Wow, that's an exciting topic. We can talk for hours on that. But I think in the end, singularity for me, or the way I see it, is the ability that humans will be to create their own reality quicker, faster. No, that you can, let's say, from an idea to execution in very short time. You know, it's whatever you want to do, because you will have all resources, and eventually you will have AI to assist you, like your army, and then eventually create a company, have money, travel, build a society, it would be so fast that for me, that singularity would be the ability of humans to transform reality faster, no, with the machines or with their own consciousness, no, in a way. Not so much the threat of that machines will take over humans and we will die, no, not so much that. I think it's more of becoming aware of our own power, consciousness, that we're entering this era, I think, no, also in the, I would say, spiritual, astrological alignments that also resonate with the same technological innovation. So for me, I see it more like the golden era in a way, no? I want to see it like that, because they always point singularity as like the dark times, machines will beat us, we have to go to Mars, otherwise we will die. I think it's the opposite. I think it's the ability to transform our reality in a bit, you know, super quick. As you say, time will not, and I agree, time will not be so much, how you say, something in the equation anymore.
Well, it will expand. Space and time will drastically expand. I can also see a wormhole sort of. We're obviously going to be Neuralinked. Neuralink is going to be easily possible. You know, it's not going to become rocket science. And we're going to have our brains in multiple clouds, you know. And yes, I think we're going to be able to understand a lot of things that are complete sorcery to us today. Yes. And now will we get somewhere? I think this world is like infinite. So I don't think we'll ever like get to a stable point. I think we'll always be evolving. And it's interesting when you study civilizations, well, 99.9 are instinct, right? But yes, I don't think we're going to go instinct for that reason. If we're like super redistributed throughout galaxies and universe, but me, I view it as just pure flow state mostly. Or the opposite could happen, you know, complete blackout. Who knows?
Yeah, both are part of the situation. Yeah. No, but I think it's more, yeah, expansion of consciousness or materialization of your fins. But I wouldn't say it's empowered by machines. That's what I'm trying to say to you. It's not necessarily, because then you are putting something external to empower you. I think it's the opposite, no, in the end.
But aren't we the same? Aren't we machines already? We're systems, just that we weren't built by humans. We were built by this mystical force called Mother Nature, whatever that is, or the laws of evolution.
Agreed.
So
I think, but you nail a point. I think the human body is the ultimate machine, but we haven't discovered that yet.
Yes. The brain is like super surprising. For example, yesterday I spent a guy that deployed his brain training to the Navy SEAL, and he had me do exercise of arrows of different colors pointing in different directions. Sometimes I had to name the direction, sometimes the color. Sometimes the color would become a fruit. For example, yellow was banana, red was apple. And after his training, first I got like a 15% concentration improvement, and then I got another 10. So from the time we started, my brain improved focus, quote unquote, by 25% in like less than 50 minutes.
Wow.
So I mean, so much potential. That's why I've been a biohacker all these years. I see so much potential in the human brain. But Gab, we're already on time. We're actually 4 minutes late here. So where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Gabriel Zanko, or MobileyourLife.com, Urano.io. Feel free to reach out. And if you're having an innovation in the energy side or blockchain, happy to take a look and support by any way. Yeah.
Same on my side. Charles Cormier on LinkedIn, podbuyer.com if you want to start scale